of control from this point on the Earth to outside of the Earth. As far as a method of traveling, it's an excellent method of travel. However, if that travel is for the purpose of conquering and destroying, then it's not a good purpose.
Okay. But my understanding is that the various races that are here are also taking control, in other words, of various stargates, and that there is something of a war over those stargates, over the control of the stargates by various races. Are you aware of that?
Well, that's what I had mentioned earlier about the war going on under the ground, where there's actually human beings fighting internal or inner Earth beings for control of such devices. One of them, of course, the biggest location was under Baghdad, and that's one of the main reasons why the U.S. invaded Iraq in 2003. There are stargates everywhere, really, and many of them are created by our own technology here.
Okay. But are you aware of any specific stargates? In other words, leading, for example, do you believe that there is such a thing as enlightenment or an ascension out of this dimension, this density?
Of course, there's such a thing as enlightenment. Ascension has gotten a connotation which I think has been skewered because of the New Age. Anyone has the ability to transcend themselves at any point. You don't have to wait till 2012. You don't have to be in Sedona. You don't have to do any kind of magic. You have to open up your own mind and connect to the oversoul and God mind within you. Then you can ascend and do and be, as perfect as you can be. Unfortunately, I don't see many people on this planet doing such things. I see quite the opposite.
Sure.
The thing is, the bottom line is, we need to take control of ourselves, and it needs to start with each individual. And, again, I go back to the point, like, who cares who's out there and who wants what? They all are against, freedom. They all want to take away your rights. But you are allowing them to do that by the way you think and by giving up your energy. If you protect yourself and you deprogram yourself, and you connect to the God mind within, then they cannot do that.
And what about the idea? What about the idea that there are some positive beings that may be, in essence, fighting on our side for our sovereignty? Do you believe in that at all?
I don't believe in that. First of all, if that was true, we wouldn't be in the circumstance we're in right now. Second of all, enlightened beings, if you will, or those who have a good intentions, don't interfere, because they know that you're taking away the learning process of a civilization by interfering that way. So they allow each civilization to develop on their own, good and bad, until they come to a point where they have stabilized and know who and what they are. Then they communicate. But for beings to come and interfere, that's like someone banging on your door and saying, hey, I think there's trouble in your house. I'm here to fix it for you. Move out of the way. Would you let that person in? Absolutely not. Well, why would you let some alien being take over your mind and your body because they're here to so-called help you when you don't know what their agenda is?
Okay. And now we could go to a break, or we can continue for the last half hour if you like. There are some questions here that people are asking me. The way this radio station works is that people are not able to call in directly. They actually type their information or their question into a Skype or into the chat for the radio show, which you yourself can see if you like. But I can go down and answer or ask you some of these questions that people would like answered for the last half hour, if that would be all right with you.
Yes, that's fine.
Okay. So there is someone asking, what is the significance of the bump around 2012 when traveling into the future? What do you think that is exactly?
Well, personally, I think that is an Illuminati marker, if you will. They're able to put these markers in certain points in time and space to block people from seeing beyond it. However, there is a beyond 2012. I will guarantee everybody that if you're alive on December 21st, 2012, you'll see the next day, no problem.
Okay. And I guess somebody wants to know why the sexual rituals. Maybe you want to go into that a bit more.
Sure. Sexual energy is the most powerful energy in creation. In fact, I talk about it in my book, True Reality of Sexuality, that the act or sensation of orgasm comes from the mind of God when it released energy into creation and created all that is. That's what we constantly recreate when we feel a desire to have sexual activity. And so the Illuminati take this and they create formulas with that sexual energy in order to create a certain outcome based on the genetics and energies of those individuals involved in the ritual. They put certain people in the ritual with a certain mix of energy to create a certain outcome. It's like a recipe. Different rituals create different outcomes, and there's so many different ones that they use. And unfortunately, they use it to create energy, to manipulate events on the earth, and to push mind patterns in a certain direction so that their agenda can be accomplished.
Okay. Let's see. What do you think about channelers like Bashar? I don't know if you're familiar with Bashar.
Again, I don't like to comment on the works of other people, but I will say that channeling in general is mind control and programming. That is an altar within the subconscious mind, which is triggered by satellite transmission to spew out certain information. Channeling is like carjacking, okay? Just like you wouldn't let someone use your car, just grab, and drive away with it because they're going on a mission. You're not going to give your body over to someone or something you don't know really who or what it is in order to transmit information. And so my suggestion is, and you can take it or leave it, channeling is not a good thing. It is basically a control system in order to give information to the public from the Illuminati. And yes, they spew out love, light, and peace all the time because that is the opposite of what's going on. And by the time you realize that it's all a bunch of malarkey, it's too late to change it.
Okay, there's another question here. A person is asking me, how come you know so much as the projects are normally highly compartmentalized? Where do you get your information?
I thought I explained all of that. I spent 13 years in the Montauk Project. That was a very pervasive project. I connected to many, many other projects. And from my contacts there, I have known people who were involved in many other military operations, both in this country and elsewhere. And because of my family's connection to the Soviet Union, I had a lot of information from that country as well. And that's how I got my information. I think it's very interesting that people comment about that I know so much, but I don't know everything, and I don't claim to know everything.
Well, it is true that there is a fair amount of compartmentalization, and I think that this person is sort of looking at Montauk as a traditional black project, when in fact it was a lot more far-reaching and kind of a seed project that resulted in the black projects. Yeah, I think maybe people aren't maybe aware of that in terms of lineage. But I am curious, are you aware of, certainly you know about the paperclip program. Are you also aware that the Nazis, in essence, are some of the people that are running the country at this time?
Oh, yes, absolutely correct. In fact, the Bush family has very strong connections to the Nazis.
Right.
Most of the real leaders in the Nazi group were brought to this country and Canada and Britain to continue the work, and they did.
And do you believe that Obama is from one of those families?
Well, yes. His mother is white. Quite honestly, I don't want to insult anybody. I find it curious that they call him black. He is not black. He's half black. His mother is a white woman who had connections to Illuminati families. And basically, he's a setup. He's a setup because he's in charge of now bringing the United States into the North American Union. Basically, the destruction of the United States as you know it, into the formation of, like what you see in the EU, all the countries really under one umbrella. Same thing will happen here and is happening in North America.
Well, do you believe that for example, this year or even this summer, as some people are saying, that the economy will collapse and that we will be going to war with Iran?
Oh, I agree. In fact, if you read my website, I write about that almost daily. Absolutely correct.
Okay, and certainly you're welcome to tell people your website.
Oh, expansions.com, and I have Q&A on there, daily news updates, and of course my books and DVDs are there as well. Okay,
and also in terms of the future plans to possibly be at war with China, are you aware of those?
Yes, I've heard of those plans, but I also know that the Illuminati plan to use the Chinese army as a global army because there are so many of them and considered to be expendable. So I feel that the Chinese will be used globally and actually have already been stationed in many countries. They're in Africa, they're in Central America, South America already, and that's already a fact. They're becoming a global army. Will there be a war between China and the U.S.? I don't think there will be a war, no. I think that is just for public consumption before the North American Union takes hold, and then we're going to see a lot of different scenarios involving China. Because my feeling is that China will actually be hopeful to the world at some point in the future when their government changes to become more people-friendly, let's put it that way.
Okay, and when I was talking about the super soldier program, I was also wondering, are you aware of the robotic beings that they've been creating, and that apparently there's at least, I've heard numbers of like 150,000 created here in the United States being held underground at this time, and that the Chinese have their own group of robots.
Yes, that's true, but I will tell you that those automated soldiers will be used more for off-Earth events rather than on the Earth.
Okay. I understand that there is an Illuminati fabricated alien agenda scenario, but my understanding was that there may be a real invasion scenario as well.
Yeah, well, that's why I mentioned
that.
Yeah, that's why I mentioned the Kuiper's Belt information before, right, because my feeling is that will be a real one. The question remains when we see this, is it the real one or the staged one? Exactly,
and whether ultimately any of those beings are positively oriented or have our, as you say, our best interests in mind on any level. Can you describe? I mean, obviously, you feel you're psychic, and I don't know if you use remote viewing as one of your techniques, or you feel that that's worthwhile. But you must, if you're aware of beings coming in the Kuiper Belt, you must be, checking them out yourself. Have you seen what they look like?
Yes, that's also a very good question, and I will tell you that many of them, but not all, are insect-like. Now, I will say that there is a huge conglomeration of beings out there. It's not just one type. There's a lot of different ones out there, but apparently the majority of them are insect-like. As far as communication, it's really blocked. They are not allowing communication. They block communication. They don't want anyone to know what they're doing, where they're going, how they think. It's really, they are an enigma.
Okay, do you happen to believe that Pat Price really died?
Well, I never thought about it.
Oh, okay. I've just had a question there in my mind about that. As to whether he was, because there are some beings or people that have been taken underground or even off planet, and given this, the sort of cover story that they died or whatever.
Yeah, again, a lot of that does have to do with programming issues. You really have to take each individual case on its own. And again, I don't like to comment about the works of other people.